For years, Jay-Z and Beyoncé have built an untouchable empire, a perfect dynasty worth billions. But what if it was all built on a single, devastating lie? A secret so explosive it threatens to shatter their legacy is finally coming to light, and the one person at the center of it all is a son nobody was ever supposed to know about. Jay-Z and Beyoncé aren't just a power couple. They are a global brand, a carefully constructed image of success, loyalty, and family. Their combined empire is worth billions, built on hit records, sold-out tour, and a perception of impenetrable unity. But behind the curated photos and public appearances, a story has been simmering for years, one that threatens to unravel everything they've built. It's a story of a secret son, a decades-long legal battle, and a truth that has been systematically buried. While the world sees a perfect family, insiders whisper about the frantic efforts to keep this one skeleton locked away. The Carters know that if this story truly breaks, it won't just be a scandal. It will be the complete demolition of their public identity. And now, the walls they built to protect that secret are beginning to crumble. The story begins with a man named Rymir Satterthwaite, who has spent the better part of his adult life fighting for one simple thing: to know who his father is. For over a decade, he has publicly claimed that Jay-Z is his biological father, a claim that has been met with a wall of silence and legal obstruction. This isn't a new story, but the stakes have never been higher. After years of being ignored and dismissed, a court has finally ordered Jay-Z to submit a DNA sample, forcing a confrontation he has allegedly spent a fortune avoiding. For Rymir, this isn't about money or fame. He works 2 jobs and has repeatedly stated he wants nothing from the billionaire's empire. It's about closure and validating the story his late mother told him years ago. But as this legal battle reaches its climax, it's clear that Rymir's quest for truth is a direct threat to the Carter dynasty. What happened next, however, would reveal just how dark this story truly was. To understand the depth of this story, you have to go back to the beginning, long before Beyoncé was ever in the picture. The timeline starts in the early 1990s, a period when Jay-Z was just Sean Carter, a man hustling to launch a music career that would one day make him a legend. It was during this time that he allegedly met Wanda Satterthwaite, Rymir's mother. According to Wanda's sworn affidavit, a legal document that would later become the cornerstone of her son's fight, she was just a teenager when she had a brief encounter with the aspiring rapper, who was already in his early 20s. The power imbalance was clear, but the consequences of their meeting wouldn't become apparent until later. When Wanda discovered she was pregnant, she found herself in an impossible situation. Jay-Z was on the verge of stardom, and she reportedly had no reliable way to contact him to share the life-altering news. The world was moving on, and she was left to navigate the path to motherhood alone. The situation grew even more complicated when Wanda gave birth. At the time, she was in a relationship with another man who, despite allegedly knowing the child wasn't his, signed the birth certificate. This single act, possibly done to help Wanda secure public assistance, would create a legal nightmare that would haunt her and her son for years. Rymir grew up believing this man was his father, but the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. When he was around 8 years old, Wanda sat him down and revealed the secret she had carried for so long. His biological father was the world-famous rapper. Jay-Z. This revelation reshaped Rymir's entire identity and set him on a path to seek acknowledgement from the man who gave him life. Tragically, Wanda would not live to see the fight through. Before she passed away, she poured her story and her conviction into a sworn affidavit, legally declaring that Jay-Z was Rymir's father. This document was her final act as a mother, a desperate attempt to give her son the truth she could no longer fight for. But the most heartbreaking detail, according to those close to the case, is how she spent her final moments. It's alleged that Wanda died while on the phone with a judge, pleading for her son's paternity to be recognized, only to be met with harassment and legal stonewalling. Her life ended not in peace, but in the midst of a brutal fight against a system that seemed determined to protect a powerful man. Her death transformed Rymir's quest from a simple search for identity into a solemn promise to honor his mother's dying wish and prove she had been telling the truth all along. But as he would soon discover, the forces working to keep that truth buried were more powerful than he could have ever imagined. As the whispers about Jay-Z's alleged son grew louder, the focus inevitably shifted to the other half of the empire, Beyoncé. While Jay-Z was the one facing the accusation, sources close to the couple claim that Beyoncé was the strategist behind the scenes, orchestrating a campaign of silence to protect their brand at all costs. This wasn't just about a husband's past indiscretion. It was about preserving the carefully curated image of the Carter family, an image of unbreakable unity, loyalty, and most importantly, perfection. A secret child from a past entanglement, especially one conceived with a minor, was a crack in the foundation of their dynasty, and Beyoncé allegedly knew it could bring the whole structure crashing down. According to insiders, her involvement wasn't born from ignorance, but from a cold, calculated understanding of public relations. The moment she learned the full story, including the troubling age of Rymer's mother at the time, the situation was no longer a personal matter. It was a five-alarm fire threatening their legacy. The alleged damage control was multifaceted and ruthlessly efficient. Publicly, the Carters maintained a united front, never once acknowledging Rymer's existence. In their music and interviews, they projected an image of a couple that had weathered storms like Becky with the good hair, but had emerged stronger. This narrative was powerful, but behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding. Whispers from former associates claimed that Beyoncé's approach was dismissive and severe. One unverified but persistent rumor alleges she once brushed off the situation with a cold, cutting remark. "Go away, little boy." While impossible to confirm, this sentiment aligns with the broader narrative of the Carters using their immense power to make the problem disappear. The strategy was clear. Starve the story of oxygen. Any journalist, blogger, or media outlet that got too close to the truth faced the risk of being blacklisted, losing access to the biggest stars on the planet. This created an unspoken code of silence in the industry, where everyone knew about the allegations, but no one dared to report on them seriously. This narrative of control is further fueled by other controversies that have swirled around the couple for years. The infamous elevator incident with Solange was expertly spun into a story of family healing, culminating in a joint statement that said everything and nothing at the same time. Similarly, the shocking claims made by figures like Jaguar Wright, who alleged that Beyoncé faked her pregnancy with Blue Ivy and used a surrogate, were dismissed as the ramblings of a disgruntled artist. Yet these stories persist because they fit into a larger pattern of alleged manipulation and image control. Whether it's faking a baby bump or burying a secret son, the underlying accusation is the same. The Carters will do whatever it takes to protect their narrative. Beyoncé, the queen of this empire, is portrayed not as a woman scorned, but as a master strategist, the silent enforcer ensuring that the family's skeletons remain firmly in the closet. But what she was about to learn was that some secrets are too big to stay buried forever, especially when the law gets involved. For years, the battle for the truth was fought in the shadows, a war of attrition waged through legal filings and hushed threats. Rymer Satterthwaite and his godmother, Lily Colley, found themselves trapped in a legal labyrinth, their efforts consistently thwarted by a system that seemed designed to protect the powerful. They filed lawsuits, presented affidavits, and pleaded for a simple DNA test, only to be met with a barrage of dismissals, procedural roadblocks, and claims of fraud. Every step forward was met with 2 steps back, as Jay-Z's high-powered legal team allegedly exploited every loophole to avoid a definitive answer. The case was a masterclass in delay tactics, bleeding Rymer's resources and testing his resolve. It felt like a hopeless fight, a classic David versus Goliath story where Goliath had an army of lawyers and judges in his pocket. But then, something shifted. The relentless pressure from Rymer's camp finally broke through the wall of legal maneuvering. A judge, finally cutting through the years of delays, issued a court order that the Carters could no longer ignore. Jay-Z was officially compelled to submit his DNA for a paternity test. This was the moment Rymer had been fighting for, a legal mandate that stripped away the excuses and forced a direct confrontation with the truth. The order sent shockwaves through the Carters' inner circle. The quiet war of attrition was over. This was now a public, legally binding showdown. For Jay-Z, the clock was ticking. He could no longer hide behind his lawyers or dismiss the claims in a rap lyric. The court had drawn a line in the sand, and his refusal to comply would be a deafening admission of guilt in the court of public opinion. The pressure was immense, not just from the legal system, but from the empire he had built with Beyoncé. The carefully constructed image of a devoted family man was now under direct threat from a court order that could expose a decades-old secret. The time for dodging and weaving was over. But what happened next would shock everyone, revealing that the legal fight was far more corrupt than anyone had realized. With the legal system seemingly rigged against him, the scandal began to bleed into the Carters' carefully managed public life, exposing the cracks in their billion-dollar facade. The pressure was no longer just a private legal matter. It was a public relations crisis spiraling out of control. Insiders began to leak stories claiming that the power couple had been living separate lives for years, their marriage more of a business arrangement than a loving partnership. The image of unity they projected on stage and at award shows was allegedly just that, a performance. Behind the scenes, the weight of the secrets, the legal battles, and the constant threat of exposure had reportedly eroded their relationship to its core. The imminent revelation of Jay-Z's past was described as the final straw, the one scandal Beyoncé knew she could not spin. Her entire brand was built on female empowerment and strength. Standing by a man exposed for fathering a child with a minor, and then spending decades fighting to deny him, would be an unforgivable betrayal of that image. The whispers of an impending divorce grew louder, with sources claiming that Beyoncé was preparing her exit strategy. This wouldn't be a messy, emotional breakup played out in the tabloids. It would be a calculated, strategic separation designed to protect her brand and her fortune. The plan, allegedly, was to wait for the story to break and then frame the divorce as a necessary step to protect herself and her children from Jay-Z's nefarious past. Her publicist would release a carefully worded statement about their long-standing separation, and she would emerge as a sympathetic figure, a woman who finally found the strength to leave a toxic situation. But before the final act, there was still business to be done. The Carters, ever the capitalists, would likely squeeze one last tour or a final joint album out of their crumbling marriage, milking their public image for every last dollar before the truth detonated. Jay-Z's lyrics, once seen as confident denials, now sounded like the desperate words of a man running out of time. His line, "The kid ain't mine," no longer felt like a defiant statement, but a hollow mantra repeated in the face of overwhelming evidence. The empire was teetering, and the world was watching, waiting for the final push that would bring it all down. Now the story stands on a knife's edge. The court has spoken, the legal games have been exposed, and the world is waiting for the one piece of evidence that can end the debate forever, the DNA test. The question is no longer if the truth will come out, but when, and what will be left of the Carter empire in the aftermath. If the test confirms Reimer Satterthwaite's claim, it will rewrite history. It will prove that Jay-Z's firstborn son was not Blue Ivy, but a boy he left behind, and that his mother, Wanda, was telling the truth all along. It would expose a story far darker than infidelity, a story of a powerful man allegedly taking advantage of a minor and then spending a lifetime and a fortune to erase the consequences. For Beyoncé, it would be the ultimate betrayal, not just of her marriage, but of the powerful, independent image she has sold to the world. The final act of this drama is yet to be written. Will Jay-Z finally submit to the test, or will he find one last way to evade the truth? Will Reimer get the closure he has fought for, or will he be silenced by a settlement, paid to disappear into the shadows? This was never just about one man's search for his father. It's about power, corruption, and the lies that fester at the heart of a billion-dollar dynasty. The perfect family, the unbreakable bond, the entire Carter legacy, it all hinges on a single, devastating secret. And as the day of reckoning approaches, one thing is certain. The truth, once revealed, cannot be unheard. And for Jay-Z and Beyoncé, the fallout will be inescapable.